With 7 present, we have a quorum.
We'll now take a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The mission of Rockford Public School is to collaboratively engage all students in a first-class education, an equitable first-class education for a changing world. The Rockford Public Schools' equity vision is to create learning environment that works for all students and interrupt predictability of students based on zip code. Thank you, Kim Pedersen, who is working behind the scenes to produce the board's broadcast via YouTube live stream and Comcast Channel 20. We are now at the petition and communication portion of our meeting, when we invite the public to make comments. The board will not respond to comments at this time. If it is appropriate, you will be contacted in a timely manner by staff. Each speaker will be allowed no more than 3 minutes to address the board. It is not appropriate to address individual board members or individual administrators or discuss matters that would otherwise be confidential in such open meeting. If you look to your left, you will see 2 digital clocks. One shows the total time allotted for public comments, and one shows the total time for each speaker. We thank you for your interest and for your cooperation with our guidelines. And our guest speakers will come in this order. Mr. Ricky Naylor, Mr. John Tech Bradley.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for giving us an extra minute to hear us. I know y'all get tired of us anyway, but thanks for that extra minute. Okay, first of all, I know this company called Kellogg, and what their vision is better days. But because this district's communication department don't have no real leadership in there, a lot of the good things you guys are doing, they don't even hear about it. Now, people talk individually, but you guys need to shake up that communication department, get some out of it and say, you know what, we changed this many principles, we did this many different things, we don't even see nothing. We look at the news, we just see nothing in there about what you guys are really doing down there. So that's why we can come down here and keep criticizing y'all, because we are the one out there talking. Now, this issue now, we know we addressed this issue with Thurgood Marshall, those 2 top schools. You guys have still failed to integrate those schools. This school district is still 75% students of color. But when you got to that Thurgood Marshall schools out there, it's 65% white. And nobody really ready to tackle, they really ready to take on that issue and say, what do we got to do to get more Hispanic and black kids in that school? You just can't rely on these test scores. I mean, the Supreme Court already said you can use essays, you can use some things that Dr. Gallagher uses, like test scores, referrals, or whatever. But we're not doing that, so it's going to keep on being 65% white students in them schools out there, and that's been that way for the last 10 to 20 years, and everybody know that. Now, so, I mean, it's just like you guys don't understand. Like when we have these discussions, you need to get the right people at the table. That's why we can't get nothing done, because you don't have the right people at the table. The people you got are mostly token staff or staff that look like somebody that hired them. You don't really have people coming in, content experts, position experts, or people that have expert knowledge in integrating schools. You don't have that here. I mean, why is that? I mean, why is it hard for you guys not to really go out there and shake the tree and say, you know what, we got to bring in different people that we don't have here. You don't have the expertise. That's why you can't integrate those schools. A lot of things here are not being done because you guys are the same staff here year after year, these same people. same administrators, same ones for 10 or 15 years, just sitting back. All they doing is packing in their retirement package. That's all they doing is getting the golden parachute ready. And that's not helping these kids. The district is not changing. So technically, based on numbers, this school district is still, like they said back in 2010 or 2012, it's a dropout factory. If you still got half these black students not graduating, then technically it's a dropout factory. If you got 6% of your students only graduating, that's a problem. Now, we had the same issue up in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Once they dropped below 70% of graduating, it was a big thing. In Rockford, they dropped below 70, nothing. That you just accept this mediocrity. I ain't got to be told to stop. I'm stopping my own.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Good evening, school board, and good evening, the citizens that's watching this today. You know, Jesus Christ, the disciples were worried about how was he going to feed 50,000 people on that day. He had the prostitutes, the whoremongers, had people with disease, and Jesus Christ said, "Where's your faith?" Then Jesus Christ also said, "The work is plentiful, but the workers are few." This here summer, I want to thank Dr. Reed and Earl Dyson Jr., and also thanking the Power District. We went to the Alpine Pool, and the Power District took care of that. And the school provided us with a school bus. The biggest gift that we received this summer was when we went to Chicago to the Cyber Museum and when we went to Rainbow Beach. We had 2 school buses, and only 2 of the people was the first time they ever went or even know who DuSable was. So this gave us the opportunity to not only educate, but also to swoop in life skills. But what the beautiful thing about this whole event was, that was going to ring with me for the rest of my life, is seeing when we got to Rainbow Beach, seeing a granny 70 years old and 72 years old, for the first time they was able to put their foot in the water. I wish that the minister was there, because we could have got the Holy Ghost and they could have blessed them at the Rainbow Beach in that water. To see that and for them to go back and talk about that. Then that Friday, we went on a Wednesday. That Friday, we took 60 people to I still call it Magic Waters. 60 people we took to Magic Water. Guess what? Magic Water only charged me for 20 of the people that we brought. They said, "We see the things that you're doing in the community, and we want to be a part of what you're doing." And then now we're on the verge of where that we've been having a meeting at Macedonian Church. We are addressing the education suspension, the bullying in school, the social promotion in school. We have over 17 ministers that showed up at the meeting. We even have eliminating racism that showed up to meet. We had the chief of police that showed up to meet. We had all the person that showed up to meet. We had 100 strong. We had beautiful beginning. We even had the NAACP. Even though I'm facilitating it, I represent Renewal Turning Point. I'm trying to talk fast. Renewal Turning Point. We are under the umbrella of the NAACP, and so we're looking forward for Dr. Reed to continue having this meeting. This is the first time you got the school system and the school and administrators in the city at the same table together to address our youth. We're looking at Kennedy Middle School, McIntyre, West, Lincoln, Ellis, Lewis Lennon, Risa, even I can never say his name right, on Kishwaukee, Constant Lane, and with these ministers, each one would take 20 or 30 of our youth and carry on. We can knock that crime down by 80%. Y'all need to give me a time to come in here where I can tell y'all.
Thank you, sir. You have a good evening. Your time is up.
I can really tell you what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
All right.
Mrs. Gina Ganganelli and Linda Kimball. In that order, please.
Good evening. My name is Nina Gianangeli. I am a Rockford resident, an educator in a neighboring district, and a member of the Education Committee of Eliminate Racism 815. Our mission is to be passionate advocates of equity-driven policies and practices in the Rockford Public Schools so that all students will be prepared for social and academic success. Some of you have heard me speak before. Still, with new board members, we wanted to take a moment to review our committee's goals to eliminate racism in our educational community. First, we advocate for increasing RPS staff of color, especially African Americans and Hispanic teachers and staff in all levels, administration, faculty, staff, board members. By the 25-26 school year, we hope to see the percentages of African American and Hispanic administration staff and board members match the percentage of those students within the system. Secondly, we advocate to ensure that RPS 205 policies and resources, teachers, counselors, supplies, technology, etc., are distributed equitably based on the students' needs and measured by the state-required assessment data and the district discipline data. We hope to have met this goal by 2020-21, but we still continue to advocate for this goal. Finally, we advocate for reading achievement for third graders within Rockford Public Schools 205. With an appreciation for the significance of reading at grade level and grade 3 for all students, we will use the current reading achievement scores of third graders in order to understand the reasons for low scores, and then to focus on the curriculum, academic support, and school environment needed to increase the scores, especially those for students of color. We collaborated with Dr. Antoine Reed and Ms. Jennifer Lawrence in our July community potluck to discuss the priority issues generated at the Summit for Imagining Rockford Without Racism. And so we would like to thank them for attending. Furthermore, we'd like to invite the board and the cabinet to our community potluck and picnic this Saturday, August 19th. We believe that developing relationships within the community is of the utmost importance, and our picnic is a fun way to do that. So we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I get that 30 seconds?
Hi, I'm Linda Kimmel, one of the certified school nurses in the district here. I'm here to speak on behalf of all the certified school nurses. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. We have been informed that the certified school nurses will not be paid the additional money for the extended school year this coming year. We hold a PEL like all your certified teachers and other certified itinerant staff, and to be fair, should be treated as them. We were informed that we would not be paid because the extra 45 minutes would be our planning time. When students are in the building, we have an obligation to take care of those students. So if a diabetic has a crash, an asthmatic has a severe attack, somebody has a seizure, their tube feeding pump starts going off, their ostomy bag falls off, they're having trouble with their oxygen, there's a serious accident, you want the parent to know that the nurse isn't on duty? I don't think so. We were told that if these things happen, we could apply, fill out the form to be paid for a missed planning period. How ridiculous. This is going to happen 3-4 times a week. That's how often we see students like this. It's ridiculous to have everybody go through the paperwork of filling out missed planning periods that frequently. Treat us like the other certified staff and pay us for the extended school day. If we have team meetings scheduled during that time, you would have to pay us to lose our planning period to go to those. And legally, you can't have a team meeting without the certified school nurse present. Therefore, we, the certified school nurses in Rockford Public Schools, ask you to reconsider and treat us like all other certified staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 3A is a notice of public hearing on the FY24 tentative budget and resolution directing a publication of notice. May I have a motion and a second to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Item 3B is a resolution authorizing and directing preparation of tentative 2024 budget calendar. May I have a motion and a second to approve this item?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Schubert,
Yes.
Ms. McCall,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Ms. Haley,
Yes.
Ms. Stanford,
Yes.
Ms. Pearson.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Item 3C is the partnership of Rockford Area Arts Council, Mosaic School of Fish installation at Lewis Lemon. May I have a motion and a second to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. McCall,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Ms. Haley,
Yes.
Ms. Stanford,
Yes.
Ms. Pearson,
Yes.
Mr. Schubert.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on the consent portion of our meeting, which includes items previewed by the board committee chairs during the committee of the whole meeting. May I have a motion and a second to approve the items listed in paragraph 4, performance, planning, and governance, their performance and monitoring?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any consent items in paragraph 4, performance and board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Please call the roll on the approval of consent items.
Okay. Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Ms. Haley,
Yes.
Ms. Stanford,
Yes.
Ms. Pearson,
Yes.
Mr. Schubert,
Yes.
Ms. McCall.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on the consent portion of our meeting, which includes items previewed by the board committee chairs during the committee of the whole meeting. May I have a motion and a second to approve the items listed in paragraph 5? That is governance.
So moved. That's 5A and 5C through F. Correct.
That is A through F.
With the exception of B, which was pulled.
Yeah,
Second.
So I'm just moving for 5A, C, D, E, and F.
Thank you. Please call the roll. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Ms. Haley,
Yes.
Ms. Stanford,
Yes.
Ms. Pearson,
Yes.
Mr. Schubert,
Yes.
Ms. McCall,
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now at the closed session consent agenda, including A, 6A, Andrea Dutz as 10-month dean assigned to East High School. B, appointment of Zachary Larson as 10-month elementary dean assigned to Rolling Green Cohort 25. Appointment of Michelle Jacobs as 10-month elementary dean assigned to McIntosh Cohort 25. Appointment of Christina Stefanik as 10-month Early Childhood Assistant Principal assigned to Nashhold Early Childhood Center. Appointment of Timothy Rosenthal as 10-month Assistant Principal, K-5 assigned to Gregory Elementary School. Appointment of Amanda Sugar, a 10-month Assistant Principal assigned to Jefferson. G, appointment of Tara Bivens as 10-month Assistant Principal assigned to West Middle School. H, appointment of Stacy Shorter as 10-month Assistant Principal assigned to East High School. I, appointment of Cyrus Wimberly as 12-month High School Dean assigned to Jefferson. J, appointment of Scott Savay as 12-month Director of Career and Technical Education assigned to the Administration Building. K, appointment of Ryan Nackreiner as 12-month Principal assigned to Auburn High School. L, appointment of Annie Pfeiffer as 12-month Director of Elementary Curriculum assigned to the Administration Building. Appointment of Cedric Jones, Director of Athletics and Facilities assigned to Auburn High School. Appointment of James Pearson as Director of Marketing at the Administration Building. O, HR Organizational Report and Addendum. Are there any closed session consent items that board? May I get a second? May I get a motion and a second to approve these items?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any closed session consent items that board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Mrs. McCall?
Item K.
Thank you. Any others? Consent item K have been pulled for separate consideration. Please call the roll on the approved of closed session consent items not pulled.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Closed session consent item K has been pulled for separate consideration. Do I have a motion and a second to approve consent item K?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll on the approval of closed session consent item K.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
No.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
No.
Ms. Bennett?
No.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
The motion passes with 4 yeses and 3 noes.
The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Jarrett?
Thank you, Board President Pearson. I'm going to be turning it over to Mr. Zediker to provide an update on our academic return on investment. We have 2 projects that we have been working on for over 3 years that we are proud to report on. We will be transitioning into 2 new projects, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Zediker in his role of supporting the Accountability Department to give an overview of how we performed in these 2 very crucial areas, both of which are tied to key goal areas, one being 3rd grade reading, the other being freshman on track rate, which are both tied to the superintendent's contract goals. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Zediker to share the outcomes of both studies.
Thank you, Dr. Jarrett. Good evening. As Dr. Jarrett alluded to, I'm here to present the closing of our first two Tier 3 academic return on investment studies, both for Reading Horizons and our Freshman Academy. As with all initiatives we engage with, these particular AROI support our equity imperative of interrupting the predictability of students based on zip code. We've shown different maps, and certainly this work is an alignment of where we want to go and having green and blue schools in all neighborhoods. The map on the right, just want to caution, is very preliminary, as we know not all data has been finalized by the state, but we do see a positive trend in where we're headed as we look at our schools and the implementation of our system-wide framework, and certainly our Tier 3 academic studies support that work. Both studies are in alignment with our universal goals. So our Reading Horizons Tier 3 study is in alignment with our third grade literacy goal. And then our Freshman Academy study is in direct alignment with our graduation rate and Freshmen on Track. So just a little bit of background on AROI. We have three tiers of our Plan, Do, Study, Act, PDSA. Tier 1 is going to be ones where the impact isn't as great. Those are managed at the department level and overseen by the cabinet member. Tier 2 is our initiatives that have greater impact on the district and have much more monitoring at the cabinet level, and then also board updates and board involvement. And then our Tier 3 studies are our two really intensive, resource-heavy research ideas that we execute to really find out what works and for whom. And as I get into the next slide, the purpose of our AROI is really what programs drive student achievement, and we're asking our question, what works for whom and under what conditions, as that guides us through our study. So the AROI process is a 10-step process when we begin to develop the Tier 3 studies. Again, it goes through the plan, design, evaluate, and act process, where we define success criteria, we look at data, we evaluate that data, and then ultimately we need to take action. What are we doing? What is that data telling us we need to do for our next steps? So we'll get into Reading Horizons again, which is one of our Tier 3s. And as we identify what our success criteria or definitions of success were in this study, we looked at improving literacy, staff training, and the quality of implementation of the program as our three areas of success. So looking at improved literacy, the definition of success, really focusing in on grade level phonics and phonemic awareness. And as measured, we wanted 60% of our students meeting or exceeding on the Reading Horizons spelling and word recognition assessment. The second definition of success was all around staff training, having two components to this. 95% of first-year implementation teachers would attend a minimum of a 2-day initial training, and then 95% of teachers will complete a minimum of 2 coaching sessions per year. And then the third definition was around quality of implementation. That was being measured as 80% of the teachers observed will demonstrate fidelity of implementation as they would meet 80% of the checklist that Reading Horizons provides on those coaching items. So where were we? As we decided and worked with the board on establishing this particular study, we knew that we had inconsistencies with implementation of our foundational literacy. We had low buy-in from teachers on this new program. And I say new, it was around for several years, but the renewed focus on this program. And we also knew that then the transfer skills, or the skills that students were receiving within this program, we weren't seeing at other parts of the literacy block and throughout the day. So what did we do? We were able to implement some consistent beginning of the year professional learning for both teachers and principals. Our instructional coaches all have been trained in Reading Horizons and can provide and do provide job embedded coaching. We're looking and really monitoring the fidelity of those observation checklists and then taking a look at how those skills are being applied outside of Reading Horizons. We've also then engaged with some of our support positions, so our special education teachers or interventionists, and making sure that they're trained with the Reading Horizons strategies as they're engaging with their students. And then lastly, and I think which is was a big push, was really working with staff and teachers on the why behind the science of reading and how important phonics and phonemic awareness is as we look at teaching kids to read. So the findings from our study. So you can see this is cohort data as they matriculate through the grade levels and progress through the program of Reading Horizons. Just a couple of notes here. You'll see in school year 20, due to COVID, we did not have data collected for any grade level. You'll also see in school year 21 that our kindergarten class did not have data collected. There were some data issues from Reading Horizons, so the validity of that data just for kindergarten with the spelling and word recognition wasn't valid, so we did not put that in the study. So I just wanted to preface that as we look at some of these results. And really what you can see is this notion of what works for whom, and you can see as our cohorts go through the program and progress through, we're seeing some really good improvements for our students. So we'll break it down by some different cohorts. In this current cohort that started school year 22 with kindergarten, as we look at subpopulations, our African American students held steady from kindergarten to first, while we had our other subgroups declined. This is not unusual as we're just getting in through the program and Reading Horizons build on itself. So from kindergarten to first, there's not many opportunities to continue to progress. So this particular piece of information is not too surprising. As we look at the next cohort that started in school year 21, they were exposed to the program. However, the data from spelling and word rec was not calculated. But you can see now everybody increased by about 2 times as they went from kindergarten to first and then on to second grade. So we're seeing some really nice increases for all of our students. And then finally, a full cohort starting in kindergarten, working through third grade. You can see that we saw some significant increases by all of our students when we compare that to the beginning to the end. But our Hispanic students increased by 38%, African American students increased by 25%, and then our white students increased by 37%. So again, when we ask that question, what's working and for whom, it looks like this is working as we have kids consistently in the program as they matriculate through. So looking at our implementation and defining success there, on the left would be the percent of teachers observed hitting that 80% mark. And so when we began this study, 62% of teachers were hitting that mark. When we ended it, it grew to 88%. The bar graph on the right, that really looks at the observation checklist and how much of that checklist we are seeing. And so you can see that started fairly high, so that the teachers that were actually engaged early were doing a lot of that checklist, and that's continued to grow. So both bar charts really represent a viable curriculum, and that's consistent across our district, where we're seeing more teachers implement, and we're seeing those teachers implement at a higher rate. So as we look at some correlations for this study, very busy slide here, but at the end of the day, what this tells us on the line of best fit is the better that our students score on our spelling and word recognition assessment, the better that they will score on IAR reading. And so that's really positive data to share and to be able to continue to monitor. Addition, as one would expect, student attendance and behavior have very strong correlations to the spelling and word rec scores. Software time within Reading Horizons and teacher implementation have a relatively strong correlation to those overall scores. And then as the previous slide indicated, our spelling and word rec performance correlates very well to IAR reading scores. So next steps, we want to keep Reading Horizons and continue to improve and using what we've learned through the last 3 years as best practice. And those can really be highlighted by continuing to work with buildings on skill-based small group instruction within Reading Horizons, and then continue to work with staff to extend those transfer skills. So what they're learning in Reading Horizons, how does that get applied within the rest of the literacy block and throughout the day? The second tier 3 is the Freshman Academy. Again, looking at the definitions of success for this tier 3 study, we were looking at the number of students on track to graduate and then the student engagement of our freshmen in Freshman Academy. So we were, for a freshman on track, we originally looked at the 2021 school year and increasing by 10% as compared to the 18-19 school year. This has evolved into our universal goal of 75% of our students as freshmen on track. Student engagement, we measured this by 50% of our participating students will show an improvement in engagement from a survey that was administered from fall to spring. So where were we? At the time of the study, we lacked a systematic way to both collect data and also review data. We lacked a strategic focus within our SLCs, which is a small learning community that's set up in the academy model. And we had lacked intentional interventions with our ninth graders. They existed, but we did not have the intentionality that we needed as this study began. What we did, and I know Dr. Gallagher has shared this on a number of occasions as we've reported out on Freshmen on Track, but we've developed a data tracking system that all of our high schools use, not just with freshmen, but all classes. And then that data that was collected allows each school to target and differentiate supports for our students, and especially in ninth grade. So the findings, you can see here as freshmen on track, every subgroup of our students, except for our Asian population, increased over the course of the study for freshmen on track. Our Asian students did decrease by 2%, still at 92%. But you can see our Hispanic students grew by 14%. Our Black students grew by 16%. Two or more races as identified grew by 21%. So really good movement on our students for freshmen on track. Our freshman engagement, one thing you'll notice is the number of subgroups is less. This is a self-identified by student on their particular race, and there were not enough students that identified as Asian or two or more races to include in this data. But you can see in terms of engagement and how important engagement is with our students, from school year 21 through school year 23, our Black students' sense of engagement with their teachers, with their school grew by 15%. Our Hispanic population grew by 5%, as well as our white students. So next steps for improvement, we want to continue to prioritize and focus strengthening our small learning communities. We know that this is a key component to the academy model and the time where teachers can dedicate to students. And we also want to continue to focus on our students in that 8th to 9th grade transition. We currently have one program that we're seeing some really positive growth on our refresh for students who are engaged in that over the summer as they get into their freshman year. So those are two areas that we're learning from the study that we need to continue to focus on and prioritize to continue the momentum we've built with our Freshmen on Track. So we want to keep the Freshman Academy and continue to improve those best practices and focusing in the areas that we have learned for our Freshman Academy. And with that, I will take questions.
Is there an expectation for how will CHAMPS and affect Reading Horizon? What are your expectations?
Yeah, I would let the content experts speak, but certainly as we think about CHAMPS and relationships with students and student behavior, we know that student behavior and attendance were very key components to a strong correlation to positive scores on Reading Horizons. So as any building implements a Tier 1 behavior and relationship program, we would hope to see that we see students in the class more often, which we think will continue to see the scores increase on Reading Horizons.
Thank you.
I don't have a question. I just want, on slide 3, the map with the different colored schools. When I first saw this, I was so excited. Wow, what a dramatic difference 1 year has made.
Yes, and I will caution the excitement as it's preliminary.
Right.
No, but this is something that this is our work, and we want to continue to see these maps continue to evolve and change. Certainly not where we want to be, but I do think I credit the schools and the work that happens at the schools, where we're seeing that positive growth within students as we look at our system-wide framework as a whole.
Absolutely, something's working.
Thank you, Mr. Zedek.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Dr. Jared.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. Yes, that concludes my report.
Okay,
Board President Pearson. Thank you.
Meeting fatigue have set in early. Next on the agenda is the opportunity for comments from board members. Are there any board member comments? Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, President Pearson. I think that this is our last meeting before school starts, so I just wanted to wish everyone good luck, and I wanted to recognize our educators that are here and wish them well in the new school year, and thank them for coming today. I also wanted to note that the new school year, that I know there's been some messaging gotten out about the weapons detection systems in the high school, but I hope that that's reinforced by everyone in the community to make sure that their high school students know that these systems are in place and they will find anything that gets brought to school that shouldn't be brought to school. So I had a discussion with my daughter about it, and she didn't know what was going on. My daughter didn't know, so I just wanted to make sure everybody brings that up with their kids, their students, and hopefully we can get out some more messaging on that too, please, before the school year. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, so I do. It's really important for community members to know that as much as I would love to attend every invite that I get, unfortunately, I cannot. And I set my schedule, just as an FYI, so my schedule is full, typically 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time. So I'm not being anti-sociable by any means. It's just I can't fit everything on the calendar. But if you give me enough notice, I would definitely try to support as much as I can. I do want to speak to the community members that are concerned about the diversity, equity, and inclusion work. I can't stress enough how our diversity, equity, and inclusion team should be present, have a stronger presence in our district, from hiring practices to training. I can't stress that enough. And so that is an ask and an expectation that when we put individuals and vote in support of individuals being brought on, that they are executing and able to work efficiently in their prospective places and be where they should be. To our teachers, thank you so much for embracing another school year. Our students is so important, and we want them to be academically successful, and they cannot be academically successful without our teachers. So thank you very much. I understand that there is a shifting of the guards, and I have great expectations, and if I didn't thank the previous representatives, I definitely appreciate them for their efforts and their service. So the school year is coming up. Mr. Carpenter have already indicated about the scanners. So RPS 205 have a responsibility to make sure parents are oriented, students are oriented. We must do our part. Parents must do their part. Students must do their part, and community members must do their part. Everyone do their part. We can have a successful year and a constant growth and improvement in our district. Thank you.
I did have one comment, if that's okay.
Sure.
I just wanted to make note of the Educator Summit. So last week I attended both days. It was the 6th Annual Educators Summit. It was by far the best one that they have put on. There was so much good information. I think there was around 160 individuals that attended, and I think it was like around 60% of RPS staff, which is very exciting. Lots of really good material and like really up-to-date data, and it was a really good training. So anybody that has not had the opportunity to attend, put it on your calendar for next summer.
Anyone else? We are now on the last agenda item. Are there any other, and this was actually, okay, are there any other action steps or other business, new business or agenda recommendations or any other matters to discuss? Ms. Stanford?
I would like to propose that we as a board take advantage of a resource we have within our, I believe it's our ISBE membership, to engage a facilitator from them to strengthen our board, to set our board goals, and to become just a better functioning board if we can. If any of the other board members are interested in that, I would like to hear your opinions.
So go ahead, Ms.
There's not any particular training that I've seen, but there are some opportunities there that we should take advantage of. There's a lot out there, so I would definitely agree with Ms. Stanford that we should take advantage of that offering.
Anyone else? So I have already been in discussion with Mrs. Fromm, and we will have a facilitator. It may not be IASB, but we would definitely have a facilitator. And the board, again, it has already been in discussion. And in the meantime, I can't stress enough that on the website, it is a wealth of information. And there are definitely workshops and meetings that you can attend, but we will definitely come together and have a facilitator for our board to strengthen its efforts. I think as a new board, it's really important that we understand that there are 7 personalities on this board, and we must continue to respect each other's opinion. And there's times that things get challenging, and unfortunately, discussions that we don't want to have, we have to have, and that is not a negative, it is a building block. Ms. Stanford?
Yeah, it's not really training that I had in mind, but more team building skills and maybe role defining exercises, that sort of thing, rather than actual like governance training or something, more like team building.
Absolutely, and that's what we'll be engaging in.
Okay, good.
Because team building is vital. Anytime that there is a new team, you go. If anyone is familiar with the Tuckman's theory of team building, you know that there is stages, and there's a rough. One of the stages is very rough. So, Mrs. Bennett.
I was just going to say that June and I get to interact every week on our committee, for example, so we know each other very well. But yeah, just to be able to, set goals, like she said, and, have things that we're actively working on together would be great.
Speaking of committees, it would be if one of the co-chairs cannot attend and and notice, just reach out and let me know. I'll be happy to step in. We're going to figure that piece out as well. That's really important. And also the information that is discussed in the committees also need to be forwarded to the president. Anyone else? If not, if there are no further accommodation or recommendations or comments, before we dismiss or adjourn. In terms of new business, I would like a full presentation from the Diversity, Equity, Inclusions team at a board meeting in the near future, and our plan to execute what have been in place for some time.
I believe if anybody has the access to the board calendar, I think Dr. Reed's presentation is coming up sooner than later, if I recall. I think maybe within the next 2 months. Dr. Reed, I don't know if you're sure or not, but.
September.
Oh, September. So the next meeting. Perfect.
Yes.
Look at that. We got it all figured out.
Exactly. It is definitely on there. We frequently hear from Dr. Reed. I was making that suggestion in regards to the entire team. Thank you, Mrs. Bennett. Anyone else? If there are no further comments, I'll take a motion in a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Have a good night. Thank you.